The rain poured down in thick sheets, drenching 16-year-old Eli as he pulled his hoodie tighter around his face. His stomach growled, and his fingers were numb from the cold. He had been on the streets for too long, his parents lost to the haze of drug addiction. No one cared where he went. No one missed him. Tonight, he needed shelter. His eyes landed on an old house at the end of the street, its windows shattered, the front door barely hanging from its hinges. He had slept in plenty of abandoned houses before. This one would do. Pushing the door open, the wood groaned under his touch. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust. The wallpaper curled from the walls, and broken furniture was scattered across the floor. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the house in a brief, skeletal glow. Eli exhaled. It was just another empty place, no different from the others. He found a dry corner in what looked like the living room, wrapped himself in his hoodie, and closed his eyes. Then he heard it. A whisper. His eyes snapped open. The sound was faint, slithering through the darkness like a breeze through dead leaves. Eli. His breath caught in his throat. He sat up, scanning the darkness. Who's there? No answer. Probably just his imagination. Lack of food and sleep did that to him sometimes. He lay back down, shutting his eyes tight. Then the whisper came again, closer this time. You shouldn't have come here. Eli bolted upright. His heart pounded as he stared into the shadows. The house suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. A shadow moved across the ceiling. Not a normal shadow. It twisted and writhed, stretching impossibly long, its shape contorting like something alive. It slithered down the wall, pooling into the shape of a hunched figure at the far end of the room. Eli scrambled back, his breath coming in quick gasps. The thing moved closer. Its body was a tangle of long, bony limbs, its face obscured by darkness, except for its eyes. Hollow, black pits. It spoke again, its voice a dry whisper, like wind through a graveyard. You see me now. That means you belong to me. Eli clutched his head as a sudden pain stabbed through his skull. Images flashed through his mind, people screaming, their faces twisted in terror, their bodies crumbling into dust inside this very house. He saw a family, parents, children, slaughtered in the same spot where he now sat. Their spirits wailed, trapped in the walls. And then he saw himself, his own face, pale and hollow, his eyes black, his mouth open in a silent scream. No! No! Eli pressed his hands to his temples, his head throbbing. The room spun around him, the whispers turning into shrieks. His vision blurred, shadows creeping toward him from every corner. Then, silence. Eli opened his eyes. Morning light filtered through the broken windows. The house was still and empty. Had it all been a dream, a hallucination from hunger? He let out a shuddering breath, forcing himself to stand. His limbs ached, and his head felt foggy. Then he caught his reflection in a shattered mirror on the floor. His skin was pale, his lips were cracked. But his eyes were black, hollow, just like the thing in the shadows. And then, deep within the house, the whisper returned. Now you belong to me.